This is up and coming. So here is the Life Force Assurance Health Card that's about to provide assurance, not insurance. And this will be available on your phone and a card. We have already had extensive meetings to map this out, to figure out what the health costs would be for every single person on the planet. They'll be able to go to their regular doctors. They'll be able to actually swipe this card and go get a massage, go to see the chiropractor, go to see the acupuncturist, go to use a quantum
Medical
biofeedback
doctor.
device.
Yeah, devices.
So thank you to Don's associate.
Son. Yeah, son.
Don's son.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing that. It really looks great. I love it. So I'm very excited about that. And that's all coming together. So we've been in a lot of meetings this week about that. So Lisa, anything you want to share before Kim gets settled?
Just that, we've been working really diligently. My team is I have an amazing team of people a very small team, but I love them. We did a lot of work this week, a lot of meetings the last couple of weeks, and things are really moving quickly into assurance. So hang tight, guys. It's coming. We're doing our best to get it to you as soon as possible.
That is going to be fire, by the way. I am so excited. I'm telling you, everybody who ever wanted access to all types of things and didn't have the money to do it, this will change the world all by itself. So I'm very excited about that. It's going to employ all types of new professions and create all types of new positions. It's going to take care of all types of ailments that we should have had the answer to a long time ago. And you know what? I'm pretty sure we can actually use it to help get rid of vaccines, right, Lisa?
That's right. We're going to our team is working on, we have many solutions for the vaccine. So I have a whole team of people just working on different solutions. So we're bringing that to the people. And we're also adding codes to the existing system that currently aren't covered under medical insurance. So we're removing things that shouldn't be there, just a few. And then we're adding things that, things like people maybe want to have a home birth, or they want to do things that they want to buy supplements for their family, or do things that they normally wouldn't afford to be able to do. They want to go get maybe the metal removed out of their teeth at a holistic dentist, or get new eyeglasses. They can do all of that on the assurance card. It's going to be wonderful. So I'm excited. And we're going to also, I don't know, I think Kim briefly talked about this. We're also going to have the essentials card, which will not just pay for food if people need help with food, but if you have children and you need health, you need childcare, you need diapers, you need formula, it's going to cover in personal items. If you need shampoo and soap, things that people really need every day, not just food. And then we're going to have pet assurance. So anybody with a pet, for domesticated animals, they're going to be covered as well. So we got a lot of great stuff coming out.
Yeah. So I love this. For a long time ago, like 8 years ago, I had a company, and our whole idea was, healthcare should actually care about your health. So it's amazing to me, because that's what a Life Force Assurance is actually going to do. It will actually care that you're healthy, not to manage your lifespan to a certain amount of years so that it can kill you off, right? Because that's how the current system works. Right. But to actually be like, hey, we want you to thrive. We want the best version of you. Right. Like, we want to know if Rusty can get that beard down to the ground. Like, we want to know if it's possible. We support it. Right. Like, we want everyone to be the best version of themselves. And it's amazing to me to think what the world can be when we actually start doing that. So I'm so excited about that. And Lisa and her team is like a band of super friends. They're really the best of the best. I know, because I helped build that team. And
I brought a couple, and you can't get them back. You can never have my team back. But I brought a couple people to the table as well, and we do. We have a super team. Yeah, we have a wonderful team that we've been working really closely with this last couple of weeks, and they're lovely, and they're busting their butt working around the clock to get budgets and charters and all kinds of fun stuff done. So we're excited.
Yep. I will tell you that if you want to be a part of this, there is something that we're going to make sure every assembly should have somebody who is a health and wellness kind of an officer or advocate or something like that, Life Force Assurance advocate, so that you can do needs assessments and you can actually have a say of what's getting covered in your area, what is going to happen. I mean, now, look, to be honest, it's everything that's normally covered plus everything else. To be honest, right. For people that are aware of how this works, this will feel like everything's covered. Anything that's going to make you healthier, anything that's going to make you better is going to be covered. right? And that includes for actual practitioners who are, in this. Now, there'll be limits, so people aren't excessive. We understand that about 5% of everybody in the system, or 5% of people in anything, are going to try to take advantage of it, right? So we know that there's going to be criminal guys that are trying to stack up massages, right? They don't even provide that service, or, they're going to charge excessive. We know that's going to happen, right? And you know what? Honestly, if that's what it takes, right now it's kind of like the opposite, right? I'd much rather people getting excessive, excellent treatment than going to get radiation therapy to fix cancer, which is ridiculous, right? We could also start working on things. I really want the assembly to start working on taking away, what is it called, Lisa, the laws that makes the different nutritional supplements illegal? I was want to call it
Oh, the Codex law.
Codex, yeah.
Yeah. We're going to reverse all the things that they removed. Like for example, B17, that's something you've talked about often, Tank. They've made it illegal for people to consume B17 because it cures cancer. So we're going to go back to all the Codex things that have been removed, and we're going to bring back, because they know what heals. So they've taken everything off the market. So they made it really easy for us. So we're going to go back and bring all those things back on the market and make them available and paid for through the assurance card. It's one of our tasks.
Right. As many of you know, I've been waging a war with the FDA for many years. And guess what? We actually get to put them out of business. How great is that? So we can actually, I'm sorry. This is tremendous news. I forgot to mention. I'm sure Kim's going to talk about this when she comes on.
I'm here.
Okay, Kim. So do you want to talk about some of the things you ratified this week to replace?
Yeah. So, well, we've done a lot of things in the last 2 weeks, right? We've been very, very busy, and part of the reason why we, oh my gosh, we're still changing things as they go along, figuring out why, money gets hung up and why things need to change, right? So we've come to the conclusion, basically, that the old system has to go completely. And that's the entire ecosystem in which we exist, right? And it needs to be replaced with a whole new system. And that's why, it was actually today we came up, it was actually in a very interesting conversation between multiple parties, right?
Yeah.
So the term, I'll start with this, and then that'll help you with everything else and help everything make sense. So idioism, I know it sounds like, well, idiot, right? But it's not. It only has to do with that your property is now your private property, right?
Right.
Your intellectual property is your intellectual property. Your home is actually your home. And it changes the way that banking is done completely, right? It changes the way governance is completely, because any other form of government that we've had to date has been created for us. And most of it is an illusion of freedom. We never really had freedom. We may have broken away from, for example, the King of England, right? And the Magna Carta and a number of other things that have gone on over the years. But idioism actually breaks us away from being governed by anyone else. So that is a government that's self-governance, first of all, the way you govern yourself and your own assets and your own money, and everything is now yours, right? We don't need a custodian anymore. This is now being transmitted everywhere. I just finished that literally about 30 minutes ago. So I was just encrypting the lines and sending it out. So I don't even have the ratification number yet. I have to go back in and get it. So as far as all of the changes that we've made are all basically in line with a new form or a new belief system of self-governance. Okay, this is the status change everybody keeps looking for. You just don't know how to get it. So that is what the assemblies are all about, or the councils, or whatever you decide to call yourself, right? Whether you're gathering in your county, you're gathering in your city, you're gathering in your state or your province, and then if your national assembly, whatever you're calling it, and then you have a global consortium, right? Well, we all know we've tried, right? Tank and I have both tried. Mr. Melville has tried. Everybody has tried to work with the United Nations. It doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't work. They have a philosophy of custodialship and ownership of its member states. That is how everything was registered before, under the United Nations, and then eventually under the trust, and eventually in the Hall of Records, as all member states were a custodian. The United Nations was a custodian, right? And a guardian over all member states, which is why we have the take a peacekeeping forces going everywhere. Okay, so we registered this week the Global Peace and Restoration Consortium of member states. Okay, so we are just a consortium. We are a group. We do not have custodialship over anything under its umbrella. Okay, however, it will be a gathering place for member states to come for things such as health and wellness innovations, scientific innovations. This goes back to something that was designed by a scientist friend of mine due to like patent laws, right? So we have a whole nother division, which is coming to fruition here, called the Global Peace and Restoration Scientific Consortium, which will replace the patent system. Okay, these are all very important things, because when you file for a patent of anything, that automatically gives them custodialship over your creation, such as your government has custodialship over its citizens. Okay, so when we filed the new form of governance, which is not really governance, it's self-governance, right? Because the ideology behind it is idioism, which is not a word that exists in any language until today. It is a new word and a new form of governance that basically means we're all going to self-govern ourselves, and we are going to form assemblies to gather in order to, I would say,
facilitate community organization. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So there are a lot of innovations, such as how do we get this information out there to the people? We will make it available everywhere. We now have a methodology to do that, to bypass all cabal media. That came to fruition this week, just 2 days ago, right?
Yep.
Thank, that was your idea. Okay, so all of these things are being registered and ratified. So we now have a consortium available for every national assembly, and a gathering place will be established, right? This will no longer be headquartered in like Switzerland in the United States or any of these places. They'll be available on every continent, and one not over the other. And this isn't the headquarters or anything. It is just a consortium place to meet. And each one will be just as beautiful as the next. And anyone from any state can visit at any time to see the innovations that are going on said continent. Okay. We're also developing divisions for education, different ways of educating our children, right? To which then the assemblies will and the people will decide which works best in accordance with their local culture, right? Because it's different everywhere. You know, there are some things that they may decide, everybody might decide, wow, that's great, let's use that. And there are some things they won't. But you have the freedom and the ability to choose how to educate your people, right? Your children. So these things have been ratified. We've been also ratifying some of the assemblies as we go through and as things come up. But the most important ratification was the one that we actually finished today, and is now processing and heading out everywhere. Probably be a couple more hours before it reaches every National Archive office in the world, right? So the importance of this is, number one, banks are illegal. Bank charters are illegal, okay? They're illegal because, as the guardian, we no longer permit banks to have custodialship over any assets. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go get a mortgage or you can't go get what you need, but that doesn't give them ownership of the property anymore. It also applies to governments, okay? So filing of deeds, corporations, the corporation commissions, and all of this no longer allows governments to have custodialship over your person, your assets, your company, your car, your land, and your waterways. Okay? This was very important. So all of this, you know, your waterways, your electricity, I mean, all of these things are no longer now the responsibility of and under the custodialship of governments. You are now free to choose your own. So it is no longer illegal to self-power. It's no longer illegal to have your own water sources. All of these things are free to you, and you do not have to ask permission because they are no longer your custodian.
Would that include things like we don't have to ask permission to cure cancer, potentially?
No, we do not. However, this is really kind of cool. Now, this is available to all scientists and industrialists worldwide. The Global Peace and Restoration Science Consortium is basically a co-op type structure to where if you're a scientist and you want to work and have state-of-the-art equipment, everything that you ever needed to work and to create, you now have. And you don't have to worry about anyone stealing your creativeness or your ideas, okay? Because under the consortium, everybody has a piece of everything that the consortium produces, whether that is royalties and the technology is farmed out to, say, a telecommunications company, right? To mass produce your new type of cell phone, right? Or it's a medical innovation. So not only do you have protection, right? You also have the ability to have a collective mind. This is not socialism, this is idioism, okay? You have the ability to have a collective mind and you're free to create whatever you want to create without the boundaries of patents and giving your custodialship over your creative ideas to a third-party entity, which they now own. So they can decide what technologies come out and what doesn't come out, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So all of these things are changing so rapidly right now. I mean, we are going, 18 hours a day, basically, putting all this stuff together because everything that we ratify in the Hall of Records now comes into full effect and all systems respond, okay? So we haven't yet done the science consortium, but we'll get that done this week, probably in the next day or two. But the point is that now you're going to see patent systems dissolving and a lot of different things dissolving, and you're going to actually see free enterprise out there, right?
So let me, before you go on too much further, Kim, I just want to explain that. So folks, the way the quantum system is connected to everything, right? So it's connected to the Hall of Records, it's connected to the people, it's connected to everything electronic, the intelligence systems, the military systems, the banking system, the financial system, which are the same, but you get the idea. All these things are connected, right? So when you change something, and this is something that took time to figure out, right? When you change something officially into the Hall of Records and it's ratified, so like what we thought was the HR, like a House of Representatives, when a law would go in and be ratified, is actually the Hall of Records, okay? And so that's what made it an official law. So when that changes, right? So if you change the policy, what happens is everything in the system is affected, right? So imagine if you make something, for example, you cannot use aluminum in any injectable product. Well, ideally, the thought would be, well, that should affect everything where that goes out.
It'll actually reject in the patent system now.
Right.
So once this goes through, it'll take a few hours to cycle through. But once that goes through, it'll reject it automatically in the patent system. And then we replace the patent system with the co-op system, and it still won't allow a registration for an injectable, for example, containing aluminum. It will just simply reject it.
Right. So you won't be able to have conflicting reports. For example, the FDA and the EPA, they both say that 5 micrograms of aluminum is toxic to a grown man of 5'10", 175 pounds. But in the first year of life, they'll take a baby that's anywhere from 5 pounds to 25 pounds over that whole year and inject about 2,000 micrograms of aluminum, right? Now, those reports don't match up, right? But this also goes back to the designation, right? So we were considered, we were the custodial, we were under the custodianship of whomever. So when you remove that, they can no longer make those decisions for us anymore. So a law that applies to us applies to them. They are not above us anymore. So that's the biggest breakthrough in human history, for the record, at least in the past 16,500 years.
Correct. And so the government no longer has the right to own a reserve either.
Wow.
Yes, a national reserve.
Really? Does that apply to
really?
like Indian nation reservation type thing, or you mean like a reserve of currency?
Correct.
Oh,
correct.
Wow. Or national wildlife reserves, parks, recreation.
And we have no need, thank God, after our fight this week, this week, with the Bureau of Interiors, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the EPA, who else got involved? The Army Corps of Engineers also
Bureau of
claimed
Reclamation.
ownership.
Yep.
Bureau of Reclamation. Everybody was claiming ownership over these water rights.
That's right.
We got Department of Homeland Security involved. They said they wanted to help. And some of them truly did want to help. And then they called the director and they told the director there's going to be bloodshed on US soil. And then we renamed them the Homeland Insecurity.
The Department of Homeland Insecurity. That is correct.
Yeah. So we're rectifying, this is going to take a while to cycle through because of all of the changes, right? So although the assemblies now have a right to decide what happens with our water, we have the right to clean up, we have the right to replace our sewage systems, we have the right to do all these different things, right? And it's open to everyone under the new form of governance of planet Earth called idioism.
Wow. That's amazing.
Isn't that pretty neat how that all came out?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we're changing everything. So, and that's why, Tank, you were so adamant, in the very beginning of this call, because it is so important that we understand the responsibility that comes along with that we have to others, to our children. Do you know that, every time I see one of these long emails with 9,000 screenshots, telegrams, and WhatsApps about he said, she said, and people gaslighting people and everything else, and evidence that so-and-so was mean to me. I mean, I get these all the time, right? And I take a very logical view to these things. I don't take anything personal. I don't take it personal when people talk against me. I don't take it personal when people talk about to anybody else. But if we have to learn to treat each other a little bit better. Right? Tank, you're right. We need to look at the big picture. For every minute that goes by in any given day right now, 11 people, children included, die of starvation. Okay? 11 people on planet Earth die every minute that goes by while you're telegramming Susie Q about the fact that Randy's beard, or whatever name you gave him, is too long, or so-and-so is so rude. Now, do you think the child that is dying right now, the 11 people that are dying right now, care in any way about your personal feelings?
Nope.
about who and so is so and so's not the president of the assembly anymore. And oh my God, I got gaslighted. And wow, you need to take my point of view and all of this and the manipulation and the arguments. Nobody cares because those 11 people are going to die. And probably with your 4-hour long call that you had about Randy's beard that we also get copies of, right? And the things Kim's doing this and Kim's yelling at me right now. I mean, it's the 2 hour and 30-minute mark, right up a National Assembly meeting. Are you kidding me? So you spend 30 minutes talking about Kim yelling at me. Well, what does that see? 30 minutes every minute, that is 300 and some odd, right, people that just died of starvation only. That's not including all the 333 people that have just died while you're having a conversation about your personal feelings right now. So I agree with Tank in being so passionate about this because it is disturbing to me. Well, I'm focusing on water. We have in the United States right now several waterways that are currently under attack, which affects farmlands and neighborhoods. People are no longer able to water their lawns. They're starting to limit the amount of water going to homes. They are literally, water has become the new blue gold. So they're doing this in Egypt right now, on the African continent. They're doing this in Russia right now. They're doing this in South Africa right now. It is becoming in critical importance about water. And that's not even including the 11 people, one every minute that die. We also have children and families getting blown up in the Middle East since the 1970s. These kids can't walk out of their house or go to the grocery store or do anything because you have all of these groups that were either formed through, other Middle Eastern countries, which are either tied to the United States or China. It's period, end of story. There's no difference between the two when you get on that level anyway. We got the Hezbollah, we got all these terrorist organizations killing everybody in the Middle East in order to gain control over oil. I sat in that meeting. I remember the conversations they all had with themselves years and years ago before I figured out who was evil and who wasn't. But they all talked about the fact they were going to wipe out the Middle East, and then began the migration from the Middle East to Europe, shortly thereafter. We just need to do it better. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's not okay to have feelings because, of course, people have feelings. But as self-governance, you need to approach the person directly and resolve it, not in a public forum. We have jobs, okay? All of us here have jobs we do on a daily basis, whether you're working for a corporation or you're raising your kids, which is also a job, or you're doing, you're part of the core team, and then your whole life is job and life happens like as a side note, right? It is true. I mean,
which is true. That is true.
Yeah. So just understand that you're not even being respectful of your fellow assembly members, whether that's a national assembly or it's a state assembly or a county assembly. If you spend 3 hours on the phone, or what's got to be, when looking at some of these Telegram threads, 18 hours a day, where are your kids? I mean, how do you have a life? How do you even, go to work? I don't understand. Like, we need to be more respectful of each other's time, right?
Or having secret meetings to out people or
right.
remove people.
I mean, we're getting rid of our own people. Nobody's perfect here, right? Including myself. Tank's not perfect. The core team's not perfect. Nobody is perfect here. But the least and the very little thing we can do is respect each other.
Agreed.
At least just have a little respect. Think about someone other than yourself, please. When you get on a Zoom call and you talk for 2 hours about your own personal grievance with another person that happens to probably not even be on that call because you're doing it in secret and in private. We are fighting for our lives. If you don't know, we have water issues, which are causing food problems globally right now.
Everywhere.
Okay, everywhere. They're trying to inject us with stuff to kill us. Okay, bottom line is it's a multi-pronged approach to kill us all. So we are under attack right now as a civilization to merely exist. If you don't believe me, it's on the Georgia guidestones in writing that they only want 500 million people to walk the earth. Okay? They decided this years ago. This is not a new thing. This is not about Agenda 2030. This is not about anything. This is their philosophy. We have to do it better. We need to create a form of governance that gives us the right. This is a real Bill of Rights right here. We have the right to self-govern. We have the right to own property, intellectual or otherwise. What we don't have the right to do under self-governance is waste other people's times, right? Be respectful, please, to each other. Okay, so we talked about Homeland Security and their almost involvement in the dam situation there. We do have life force enforcement that has been working on it now for days. It has been a complete and utter total nightmare of, I mean, I was waiting for the Bureau of Red Ants to come out and say that they have ownership as well in the water rights there in the canal or in the reserve or whatever. Right. Yes. Everybody's under the impression they have the right to own water and waterways. So-and-so constructed it. I was the one that painted on the coating. I put the bulkhead doors in, I own it. This is exactly what they're doing, okay? So we're taking those rights away, but when something goes down, something else needs to come up, you know? And I have to applaud both the state of California, the California Gold State Assembly, and the Oregon Assembly for working in, because this is right on the border between Oregon and California, for working together very, very well, might I add, to put together all of the appropriate grievances, a real grievance. They filed it. They came up with an actionable plan immediately, and we're executing on that plan. And we're solving the problem. It was incredible, and it was a great show of what assemblies need to do, or should be doing, or could be doing even. So it's fantastic. So that's what we're looking to do here. So we have now created a consortium of member states. We'll be putting a property, right? Now let's talk about funding, okay? So on Thursday evening, late after hours, we transferred funds. The banks recognize, everybody recognized, we have it in writing that the money is there. We also had it in writing a year ago from Santander Bank. But until the custodial rights, this is how we figured it out, because we're not perfect either, right? We're going along here trying to sort things out. So in about a 2-hour session, bouncing back and forth between myself, Tank, and one other person, right? We had come up with, this is how you do it. So until the banks, see, the banks still had a right to decide until today that on who gets money and who doesn't, and whose account gets blocked and who doesn't, for two reasons, okay? Number one, it could be a government order, such as an IRS levy or a child support levy or some other type of levy against your account that you didn't agree to. And that would be submitted to the bank, who was your custodian, right? They had custody over your funds and your assets until today. So it is no longer legal to form an entity that takes custody over someone else's funds, especially without their consent, okay? Now, there's still things like pension funds and retirement things and these things are, you are agreeing to have an expert manage something on your behalf. This is a service provider. This is not a custodian. There's a difference, okay? So I'm not saying that these things won't exist anymore, or these types of investment funds or things of this nature. They will change over time. But that now you're having a complete agreement, right? So before this all happened, you would not have a say on whether or not you really you needed a bank account, right? Because you pretty much need to in order to get your payroll check, in order to function in society, have a debit card, buy something online, whatever it is, you would need pretty much some form of a prepaid debit card or a bank account, at least somewhat, to exist in Western society anyway. But now, so that you automatically had to give them the right to have custodialship over everything you put in there. This will also take apart the MERS system. If you don't know what that is, the MERS system, which gave them the custodial right to manage your property, right? They had custodialship over your house, also your car, and anything else you put into a bank.
Your soul is actually in the contract.
And your soul.
Yeah. The mortgage electronic registration system had control of everything and your DNA, and they were allowed to do whatever they wanted with it. And so if you had a mortgage, they were your mama. So basically.
Yes. So then they were issuing CDOs and CDLs, and it became such an entangled mess, right? That some people were going through the MERS system looking for their mortgage, and they got 7 in there of the same amount. There was no, it was like, if you bought a car for $20,000, say, right? And you got a loan against that car for $20,000, let's just say, then you can't get another loan on the car until you've paid that loan down, right? Or you paid it off. Now you can get another loan on that same car, right? This is going to change the way, not to say that it's going to take time, right? So you're still a citizen of X country, but that doesn't give them the right to control you the way they used to under the idioism system. See? So you got driver's licenses, that's fine. I think we should have driver's licenses, to be honest with you. But that doesn't give you the right to own my organs.
Yeah. Because
I want to drive a car. However, we have to have some kind of accountability until we all learn how to be accountable for ourselves, right? If somebody crashes into your car or whatever it is, or, is driving drunk, and kills your child or whatever it is, we need to have some kind of a system, to track these people. Yeah, some kind of accountability, passports to travel. Well, it's the system that exists right now. Eventually, I don't know if we're even going to need them, but right now we have them. We can also issue passports probably in the next, I'm going to give us some time, probably 30 to 60 days. We can also start issuing passports under the Global Peace and Restoration Consortium of member states as well, right? And we can do a lot of different things. So this changes banking in one fell swoop worldwide.
More than banking, this changes virtually everything, because you're taking the shackles off from people, essentially. So people are now responsible for themselves. And when money gets transferred, they're responsible for it, and they can decide where it's going to go, and no one can interfere with that. Basically, right?
To an extent. To an extent, okay. We still have our grand jury system, which is in its infantile stages worldwide, right? Where you have an actual jury of your peers, like for real, and not a paid off judge for real, right?
Now
Yeah, not a paid off people. And we're all making decisions as to whether you committed a crime or not. So if you're funding the Taliban or Al Qaeda or the PMF or one of these different groups around the world, the Boko Haram in Africa, then you will probably be brought in front of a jury of your peers, and you will not be permitted to do that, right?
Yeah, that would be bad, right? Got it.
That would be bad, right?
Don't fund terrorism. Yeah.
Don't fund terrorism, right? So these are all things that we all need to be focusing on as assemblies all over the world, and not our personal he said, she said banter and arguing. I mean, we're arguing over, like Tank said, whether your spouse made the bed or not this morning. And that's the biggest thing that you had to do until you realize 11 people are dying of starvation every day. And it's going to increase, every minute. And then it's going to increase dramatically if we don't get this water situation fixed. We obviously cannot put our water, if you're in the United States, under the Bureau of Interiors, right? The Bureau of Reclamation, the EPA, and nobody knows what the other one is doing. We heard so many lies this week, I can't even begin to tell you. The EPA says there's a parasite in the water. The Bureau of Reclamation says that there's a drought. You
got to protect the suckerfish. You got to protect the suckerfish.
Yeah, what do you call it? The Fish and Wildlife people said we're protecting the sucky fish. And some birds I've never heard of either, right? Yep. And everybody had a different reason to why the canal was broken, but common sense will tell you if it's all those reasons, then why did this not come up since 1964, since all these things have been in operation?
No, it doesn't matter. No, because you want.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that just try to stay focused, on the big issues. And if you have a personal grievance with someone, that is not something you file with your assembly. You call them up personally and you have a personal conversation. Does this affect, and ask yourself this question before you write your grievance, does this affect assembly business? Now, assembly business can be defined as waterways, roads, schools, potential issues with current laws that are in effect that need to be changed, or different things that are the police department, the enforcement divisions, the intelligence agency. Does this affect assembly business in any way? Okay. If the answer is no, then that is a personal grievance, and you need to call that person directly as a sovereign being that you are now, right? A self-governing human that you are now, and address this issue directly in a calm manner that is actually going to hopefully solve the grievance between the two of you. And be mindful, and if you need to rewatch it, remember Max took some time out of her day to talk about triggers and how to handle triggers, because we all have past issues, whether it's past traumas with governments or past traumas with, in Max's case, my God, one of the most evil organizations on the planet, right? Or issues with parents, or issues with control, or controlling spouse, or abusive family member. Just think about those things and how to handle your triggers before you get on the phone with the other person.
So I think this something, just to pause at this moment for us, to really think about this. I want you to consider the absolute cluster of madness and useless behavior of the standard that has been set by the previous government, the previous financial system. You currently have laws in place that allow them to ban curing deadly diseases, that allows them to come in and own you as property, that register you as slave. This is the old system. This is what the system was. The financial system has run every single bank into the ground so that every single bank in the world is insolvent, meaning they don't have enough money to pay their debt. So it would be a tragedy if we don't step up with something better that acts in the best interest of all the people. Because essentially we could have a gaggle of monkeys randomly pressing buttons that could have done the same thing that they did. So if we don't actually step up, organize, and say, wait, this is very reasonable. We can easily do this. We just have to prioritize what matters and stop worrying about, the little things along the way. We need to focus on the purpose, the mission, and get that done. And believe me, it will be the best thing that you were ever able to contribute to since you became a parent or something. I mean, it's a distant second to that, but as far as the world goes, pretty amazing opportunity that you have to step up, to be the government, to make differences and changes, and have your voice have weight, have what you decide is the best thing for your family, for your children, for your assembly. Together will actually have gravity. That's tremendous.
And for our future generations to come. It's time we write our story instead of his story, right? Let's write our story. Let's do it right. The other thing I want to mention, because you brought it up, Tank, is that once this takes place, think of all the things that will no longer be considered an asset to a bank. So when you go get a loan, right, on whatever it is, personal property, a credit line, it could be anything, that becomes an asset to the bank as long as it's current. We talked about this with other government bonds, right, or debt instruments issued by other governments. As once this finishes cycling within the next couple of hours here, those things are no longer assets of the bank.
Yeah, that is so every
because
debt,
they're no longer a custody, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's amazing. I mean,
or the corporates which they feed.
Yeah. So today's a really big day. A lot has happened in the past few hours. I got to be honest. It's even pretty exciting for me, and we do this all the time. So this is a really exciting time. All right.
So what do you think, Tank, about idioism?
I think this is brilliant. Brilliant. My only concern is that it sounds so much like, I don't want people to think that we now are running under an idiocracy, but just, I think idioism is perfect.
Idioism.
Idioism. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's brilliant. We were talking about this today. I really, this is the act of self-government. Right?
Yep.
To literally be able to act in your own best interest, that of your family, that of your community, to form communities around the idea that you are the most important people there because you're the ones that make it up. I love that. I'm very excited.
And to own your own property. Your property is now yours. Yep. And your own creative designs and decisions.
Yeah. And then you can come together. That's another thing too, is to be able to come together and not have to look over your shoulder and, hold your piece of cheese and make sure nobody steals it from you, right? You could go in with your amazing idea, sit down with a whole bunch of other people with also amazing ideas and be like, here's what I did. Oh, you know what? Here, what would help that? You can add this and we can add this. Oh my gosh, we just made amazing, right? Let's go sell this and give it to everybody, right? We can do that now. How incredible is that, right? To be able to come together that way, that to me is amazing.
Exactly. And you don't have to worry about patents and somebody stealing it or reverse engineering your technology because you get paid on it no matter what.
No matter what. And what's so amazing is there's so many people, right? There's so many amazing technologies that have not hit the world because somebody's holding on to them so tightly because they don't want to get screwed over. Basically. So that's incredible. I am thrilled about this. So it's a breakthrough day.
And we are moving right along with Life Force Assurance, by the way. That's going very, very well. We have some term sheets on the table that we're reviewing with that came through Lisa. Lisa's been working her butt off on the coding and trying to organize everything. for pet assurance and life force assurance. So that's going well, and we are on schedule, right? It's only been a couple of weeks now. So all that will be ratified and everything this week as well, which is important. The ratification of things and funding go hand in hand, right? Funding is designed for a purpose, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that one thing with the hedge fund, just because we did mention that last time we had a call, we had talked about working with the hedge fund. And apparently this particular hedge fund is not in the business of making gobs and gobs of money because they decided it wasn't in their best interest, or they decided it wasn't in their...
Well, they haven't actually made a decision one way or the other. They just, I don't know, it's holiday week here. A lot of people took off for the whole week. There also are some serious contracts that expired on the 4th of July as well. Something when I first started, or prior to my position going firm, I guess, they got me to agree to a 10-year contract in 2011. My position didn't go firm until 2012. Therefore, what ended up happening is we were subject to that contract, for 10 years. That expired, and everybody was surprised when nothing happened on 4th of July as they had anticipated. Okay. That was another thing that happened in the last 2 weeks since we've talked. This was very, very important because some members of the Black Sun, I don't know, the Gray Pope, Ra Incarnate, or whatever he's calling himself these days, told them that he could renew the contract and was, let's just say, encouraged to take a marker against that contract. So that marker expires tomorrow. So if he doesn't produce the contract with the trillions of dollars that are required for that contract, his marker expires. And if you've seen John Wick 3, you'll know what happens when you're excommunicated. So anyway, point is that, the world is moving on. We, the human race, are moving on regardless of what they do now. I mean, we're doing really, really, really well. The fact that the banks do not have a right to dictate anything anymore by the end of the day today is fantastic for us. It's going to change the MERS system. It's going to change the mortgage systems. It's going to change everything. Give it a little bit of time, okay? This week also, you'll notice that Wells Fargo has decided to cancel all personal credit lines, right?
Wonder why.
And you still have to pay them off, but they're canceling the credit lines. Now, the reason why they're doing this is because they cannot issue credit lines to their cabal members anymore, okay, for vaccines and other things that they were issuing credit lines. And they thought that if they canceled the old credit lines, that they would now be able to issue new credit lines in their place, like an even exchange, right? However, they really didn't think through this, and I'll tell you why. Number one, okay, a new credit line is a new credit line. And even if they canceled every credit line and every mortgage and everything they had in their asset base, they still wouldn't have enough liquidity to actually issue a new credit line. It wouldn't matter. But it was a nice theory and a good thought, probably came from the Lee family over there in China, because that's who runs the board of Wells Fargo. So I just wanted to let you know. So if you've been affected by that, that's the reason and the thought process behind it. But there are plenty of other banks giving personal credit lines and whatnot, still to this day.
All right. So it's going to be a pretty exciting week at this point. It's going to be a pretty exciting day. I'm pretty thrilled about that. So anything else, Mrs. Possible, that we want to end off with?
At this moment in time, just understand, we're here to support you. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here as an ear to listen if you need us. We're doing our best on our side of it to make sure that we are prepared thoroughly and 100% to make sure that no one has custodialship over Assembly's money and a lot of different things that we're doing now, right? Nor control to close accounts or take the money out of your account or change things. So let's just move forward this week. We probably will have some special reports coming through this week. We expect tomorrow to be a ridiculous day on our part, but we're getting the job done, and so are you. So for all of you that are participating in assembly membership or council membership, we thoroughly appreciate all the good work that you're doing. And just know that let's go change the world this week, right? Again.
That is right. Everybody, have a great day. Have a great week. Please approach everything with the appropriate amount of gravity and urgency it deserves, and make sure you take the time to, appreciate all the moments that you have with your family and everyone else. Let's go change the world, guys. Have a great day.